people may hear our chatter a little bit. I
Now,
sometimes
how
run
long is this going
music.
to go?
It says we have excellent conditions, so that's good. We're not live on YouTube yet, but we will be.
How
Oh,
long will we be on the
I
air?
don't know. Probably an hour. Probably you know depends on how
Because I
much.
got I got a record date in New York at RCA at 1:15.
I got a record date in the lavatory.
Remind me to tell you the story, the funny story about McCracken.
Good, because we're going to talk about him. I think McDonald is what's his name? Just subscribe to my channel.
Tommy
Tommy
McDonald.
McDonald.
Yeah, I just told him.
So I see him as one of the people waiting.
Oh,
You
he
know,
said he can't find it.
did he spell my name right?
Yeah, I sent it. Does he have to say John Tropea maybe?
No, he could just type that and he'll see where it's up and coming, and it'll say going live. I saw him as a viewer, so unless it was someone else.
Maybe he didn't realize it was at noon.
Yeah, he's not seeing it yet. Um,
RUSSDEFILIPPIS.
yeah,
Oh, you
that's
got it.
it.
Yeah.
Took me to sixth
He's on.
grade to remember that. So
There's no reason why I should know how to spell your name, but I'm
hey,
such a putz.
I wonder if my wife knows.
I know
It's
you
all
as Rusk.
it's all new to her. She's been going by her former husband's name. Her deceased
Yeah.
husband's name for so long, and that's the girl's last name.
Did she
Um,
take your name?
yeah, she did, but she's not using it right now. I don't think. She signs cards that way, but all of her nursing stuff is in her former name, so it's like why complicate the issue?
No, it's better that way.
You know.
Didn't take my name.
I mean, if she had her maiden name, then no big deal. But people have known her as with that name for so long. It's like why? Maybe when we get to Florida, we still got 5 minutes to go. Why? Maybe we get to Florida. She'll change it up. But we'll see. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
Let it pass the honeymoon test.
And
6 month honeymoon, and then because
then you could change
yeah,
it.
she don't want to change the titles on the
So
envelopes.
Lisa goes by her maiden name, right?
Yeah, to
Yeah,
me.
I thought that at this day and age, it's like ridiculous. I mean, when I first got married and you first got married, like a different. I guess it was a different story. I mean, I wouldn't have cared if they took it or not. It's
No, I think it's a different world now.
yeah, well, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I mean, we have separate bank accounts.
Oh yeah, yeah, we do too. We're gonna eventually have to have it. We'll have a joint account. I mean, whatever.
I ain't splitting up another house, and I'm not splitting up another pension, four pensions, and I'm not splitting up another
I don't
checkbook.
have to worry about that. I just got
I
Social
don't
Security.
care if she's the Queen of England.
I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it at him, so I don't really care. You know,
Well, no, well,
and
I
her and
don't
her
have very
girls,
much.
her and her girls will get it all. I got no kids to leave it to, so. Well, I do stepdaughters, of course, but
Well, you got to at least leave me a set of guitar strings.
oh, you can have that. I'll let you have one. Just take your pick of the guitars. I don't care. you know.
I told Lisa, as something happens to me, two things. I don't want nobody in my family getting my guitars. Maybe my son, number one.
Of
Number
course.
two, find some guitar players that have promise and loan them to them.
Right. Yeah. Lease them
You
out.
know,
Yeah.
and because I don't want my guitar being in the corner of one of my granddaughters being pissed on by a lad. If they play guitar, that's one thing.
Right. Right. But it's funny. I should have. I posted this thing on Facebook. I'm wondering if the likes of like what's it, paparazzi, uh,
Paparazzi.
paparazzi, and those cats will jump in. I also posted it and asked some of the younger cats but they're in L.A., so it's 9 o'clock there. But we'll do our spiel, and then people
Did you
will
see?
view it
Did you
afterwards.
just say? Did you just say Papa Rosie's listening in?
No, no,
Oh,
I don't know if he knows or not. I did
will
post
I
it
be
on.
seeing who it is? Well,
No, no, I guess Lisa could see how many viewers, how many people pop in, how many people jump off. You know,
well, I could actually go on my phone.
yeah, it might cause feedback though. You might hear a loop back.
Oh, okay.
That's what Jeff did last time, and all of a sudden I started hearing my voice coming back to me.
Even if he had the volume down.
Yeah, unless he did something else where he was
I
connected
don't.
to.
That's nothing.
Well,
I
we'll
don't care.
see. We'll play it by ear. Right now, we
Rock
don't
and
have many
roll.
viewers, and we might not to start out, and then they'll jump in. I know my buddy Jeff said he's going to be somewhere, but he's going to be watching. He's going to be listening on his phone. He's going to be traveling somewhere, But
Okay.
once it lives on YouTube, people can view it. And what time do we got?
Got 2 minutes.
Yep. So I'm going to just go live here and make sure we're okay. I'm going to go out there live. They'll see the poster, and then they'll hear us chatter. So I guess we won't drop any bombs. But this is not geared for children anyway. That's when you set this up, you have to say not suitable for children, just in case you
So there's
drop
no
a bomb.
cursing. So no cursing.
Oh no, you can. I'm saying when I first set up my channel, I said that it's not suitable for children in case we drop a bomb. Although then
Oh,
you
I
get,
got you. Yeah, I see.
you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I drop a bomb.
Many you've
Yeah.
dropped.
So I'm gonna solo me first. I'll be behind this, and then I'll bring you in at some point. Right now we have just 2 viewers that are geared in. But we'll see. I mean, I've gotten a bunch, and then it's hard to. You have to keep pounding this. It's like pounding the pavement.
It's
But,
like starting up any kind of business.
yeah, it's
follows.
just. But if I can do this every 2 weeks and just my mission is just to to bring about some of the history of the modern guitar scene. It didn't just start in 2000. Um, and every generation thinks that they've just invented it. I guess that's just like every generation thinks they've just invented sex.
Right.
So, but the bottom line is that both those 2 topics existed way before. But I guess I was the same way. I thought that I was turning my father on to new stuff when in fact, I remember telling my mother, "Oh, there's this new song out by Bobby Vinton called Roses Are Red," and she looked at me and said, "Are you kidding me? That's an old song." So, but it's kind of heartbreaking when you're talking to people and you mention the people that inspired you, and they don't even know who it is, and they think that they pull up a name from their generation as being, an awesome player, and I'm like, are you kidding? You have no idea the players that were around, But they, what I find now is that I ask my students, people that stay with me, if they're the younger people, who were your inspirations, and then if they happen to say, Robin Ford or whatever, then I say, okay, and who was his inspirations? And I kind of back cycle back. But anyway, is it 12 o'clock? Yeah, it's 12 o'clock somewhere, so I guess I can start drinking. All right, I'm going to drop this. It should be me behind here. Hey, everybody. It's time for our guitar chat, Saturday afternoon. I'll be doing this every so many weekends. I may adjust the time here and there so people from the West Coast can jump in. I'm really honored, and it's a pleasure to have someone who I consider my slightly older brother, adopted older brother, and he has an unbelievable body of work, active in the New York, I guess you can call it the New York wrecking crew, from probably the early 70s to the late 90s. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. I got the honor to be part of a trio with him, and we played 2 guitars and pretty much upright bass. And let's see if I have any of those photos I can put up. But you know, um, we drafted many a different bass player at that time to be part of the trio. Just to name a few: Mike Richmond, Nicky Perrott, Jay Linhart, Cameron Brown, Sue Williams, Leek Milliman, Brian Glassman, and Bill Mooring. And if you check all those guys out, they're all state of the art players, people you should know. Anyway, I'm going to bring them out here. And let's see, we'll place John to my left. Oh, I'm going to flip that, Johnny, because now you're under me, to my right. There you go. Folks, John Tropea. So,
Hi, folks. How you doing? Happy Saturday.
we both have our black shirts on. Anyway, Mr. Tropes.
Mr. Ruskell.
It's good to see you. You know, my intention is to, you know, kind of spread the word about the music world that I grew up in and you grew up in and what influenced us. And like we said, outside, behind the curtain, younger cats may or may not be just jumping in to the world of listening to, just the Wesses or the Pat Martinos or the Steve Croppers, or who's the guy that played behind Elvis Burton, along with an array of others. So, and they may not be hip to how fertile the New York session scene was with yourself and Gad and Dupree and
Eric Gale.
Who's that?
Eric Gale.
Eric Gale. And
Spinozza.
Who's the gentleman from Hackensack again?
McCracken.
McCracken. I mean these guys were on every cut, every record. So, let's just start out with we both hail from the same town, the center of the universe, Fort Lee, New Jersey. And I think we both studied early on with the famous Italian guitar teacher Al Ferraldi. But let's go back to your early history about what drove you or what enticed you to pick up a guitar. Was it handed to you by your dad or mom and said, "Look, play this," or were you jonesed by something you saw?
Well, I was telling you the other day that my son found an old home video. I had always wanted to play guitar from when I was an adolescent. And there's a video of me at, I believe it was 3 years old, with my grandfather playing banjo and me playing a small guitar. I didn't know how to play, it was just mimicking.
Right.
And I remember that day pretty much to this day. I don't know whose birthday party it was. Might have been mine, it might have been my brother, and I may have been 4. But anyway, going from there, my mother, for some reason, was very enamored with Mundell Lowe.
Great guitar player.
And the tenor guitar. And on top of that, my father used to have 3 gas stations and service stations on 42nd Street and 43rd Street. And at times he would service Tony Mottola's car. And he was very impressed that Tony had, I guess, the equivalent of a beeper or an answering service, because he said that he would go to this, in those days he was doing not record dates and jingles, he was doing live jingles in all the broadcast houses. And he said, my father said he went to pick up his car, and while he was waiting to give back the keys to him, the front desk says, "Your service is on the phone. They need you to be at RCA in a half an hour." So he was very impressed with the fact that these musicians were going from one place to another on a spur of the moment. And I never forgot that. And from before I even learned 2 chords, I wanted to be the guy that was behind the scenes, the guy that was in the studio. Uh, I also knew that when I saw Ricky Nelson play, that he was a functionary guitarist, and the guy that was really the real deal, was Burton.
Right.
Same thing with Elvis,
Right.
and so I wanted to be. I aspired to
James
be the
Burton.
Richard Burton, Tony Mottola, whatever. And ironically, years later, I worked in the beginning years with Tony Mottola, Vinnie Bell, Al Caiola, Jay Linhart. Those those guys. Well, Jay Linhart was of the newer crowd. He
Right.
was an overlapper, and but then as the years went on, I worked a lot of times with Bucky,
Right.
and then Bucky went out to play. He was a musician. He was a playing musician right from the start. You could tell he was great in the studio, but when he played live, he was great live.
Right. He was a constantly
So
working player.
I kind of followed the path of when you make it to the top or whatever your top is. I moved on to something else. That's why the last 20 years I've been playing more than recording.
Right.
I record like everybody is anyway because it's a different deal now.
Right.
You know, I'm doing solos from my house by email.
Right. Right.
You know, whereas
Yeah, you send them an MP3 and you move on.
well they okay it, then I upload
Right.
the WAV file. Everybody's doing that, and we're making records. We're making records. How would you say it? Without really playing together,
Right.
for the most part.
You know, you talked about Bucky. I'm hearing a little bit I'm hearing a little bit of slapback from your speakers. Anyway,
Do you want me to put my headphones on?
yeah, that might be cleaner. I don't know if the folks. I don't know if the folks outside are hearing that, but when we both talk, when I speak anyway, I hear it coming through your speakers.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah. I don't hear myself now. So you mentioned that you stepped in. I mean, at one point, I guess the first guard were Bucky Pizzarelli and Al Caiola, Tony Mottola, Don Arnone. I'm trying to think of the others. The gentleman you mentioned that created the sitar guitar.
The water sound.
Vinnie Bell, right?
Sal LaTroia.
Right. So that was the first guard. I guess it was kind of like the guitar mafia, because they were all paisans, it seemed.
There were a lot of Italians.
but they and then you got into the mix. I mean, relatively early with the likes of I mean, who were the guitar players then? You Dave Spinozza. We forgot to mention Dave, I think.
Well, no, I mentioned this. You might not have heard. Dave. I guess in the order of the three of us, McCracken was there first, and he was a little older. I'm 75 now. He's passed away, but he would probably be close to 79 now, if not 80. Then David came on the scene when Eric Gale started dropping out, because there was a period where he didn't want to do dates that much. He was a little burnt out,
right.
And he moved to Trinidad, but then he came back, and then I came on the scene at around 69. I wasn't busy, but I was on the scene aspiring to be with those guys, and by 70, 71, I was doing dates with them, but still the old guys were on the scene too. And in those days, we went from 8-track to 16-track. There still was 2 and 3 guitar players on the date.
Right.
Frequently.
So you'd walk in and Spinozza would be maybe in one chair, and Mironov was a little
no
later
Mironov
on.
came later.
Okay.
Much later.
And so he'd be in there, and maybe one of the old guard would be next to you.
Yeah, many times.
And I'm just gonna look for some pictures here of see if I got some of the young tropes. Here's young tropes at the Hit Factory. playing.
I'm
like,
not seeing these, right?
no, you're not.
Uh,
I guess the folks are seeing them, and whoever else. I'll move it out of the way so we don't, get between us. Um, I think I have some of, and then, I mean, the other players on the scene, other than guitar players, were the Brecker brothers and Gad, and here's one, and Richard T. Right?
Rick Barada. Rick
Yeah,
Barada.
right.
Of
Rick
course,
Morata, who I
Purdy.
just realized was all the. I think he's the music to "Everyone Loves Raymond," right?
Yeah.
Isn't
yeah.
that one of his gigs? I see his name all the time.
Yeah.
You know, let's see if what else I have here. Here's another Gad and T. You know, I mean that was the. I mean that was a pretty impressive group of players. When you first hit the scene, I mean, I just can only envision that when it was the Bucky Pizzarelli days, and the Tony Mottola days, it was a heavier reading lift because those guys were so orchestrational in their mentality and playing with big bands and stuff, and an NBC band. Was it a heavy reading lift when you first hit the scene, or was it like play a lick here, play a lick there, and
Well, there were times where there was more reading because there was three guitars and much larger orchestra.
right?
When I played with, I did an album, I think it was a crooning album, and it was a full orchestra. Michel Legrand did the orchestrations,
Right.
and there was four guitars on it as a section. So naturally, we had to read. But then there was times where there was reading, but I was being the young guy. Maybe I might have changes, and I would just do fills, because during the turn of from the 60s to the 70s,
out comes the phasers, and out comes the all those newer sounds.
The sound had a lot to do with it.
Right.
Difference of sounds, and there would be these guys that read, and some of the older orchestrators wanted some new sounds.
Right.
To come into play with it,
So
every date was different. Every date was different.
Oh, that's cool. But that's when you start becoming well connected with the Will Lee and here I got a shot of there's Will, you, and Ronnie Cuber.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's of the same era. That might have been part of
that picture was taken in Japan with my band. That was the first time we went to the Blue Notes with my band, the Tropea band.
Okay.
But we played for years and years before that. Will Lee, Anthony Jackson, Neil Jason, Zev Katz, we all started around the same time. Right. Early 70s.
And that was back when most of the jingles were not done early on. They weren't done in a little tiny room where you plugged in and you used a Rockman or whatever. It was more of a real, real studio, real conductor, or real, live, stuff, as opposed to plug in and or doing the non-linear thing. Everything was tape.
It was done just like a regular record tape.
Right.
It was just 30 seconds and 60 instead of 3 or 4 minutes.
Right. So, all right. What got you the first shot in the arm into that scene? What got you the first shot in the arm of doing all the record dates? Because we spoke earlier on, and you told me the first record or the first hit you were on was by the Glass
Bottle.
Glass Bottle.
The Glass Bottle.
And it was I forgot the name of the tune.
I don't actually remember the name of the tune, but it was backed by the American Bottling Company for Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And Tom, I forget his name. He was the guy they stuffed in the trunk in Goodfellas, the maid guy. But he was a drummer. I met him.
Didn't he just pass away not too long ago? Was he in the Sopranos as well?
Yes, a couple of
years
ago. And
he was also the drummer with the Four Seasons?
He
Could
may
he
have
be?
been at times. He may have been, yeah.
I mean, and
Well,
we also talked about prior to stepping into the jingle thing, you were doing a band, Gary and the Travelers, and we
that
talked
was
about,
before. Yeah, that was in the 67, 68. I worked with
and
him.
that was when John Pesci was part of I guess a bar band or a cover band or a wedding band or.
Yes, with this drummer, Tom.
Oh,
I think his
okay.
name.
So, so now we know that we're tied to the Sopranos and the Goodfellas and everything else.
And so is my cousin Joey Pantoliano.
That's right.
Was
There's
in
Joey
Sopranos.
Pants. They're all connected to that. Probably the Aiellos, everybody. Hey, it's the Paisan
Maybe,
crew.
yeah.
All right,
They
so
all did
so
good.
we did that. Now, what was your big break into the jingle thing? Was it just someone referred you,
Well,
or
you have to remember at the same time I'm starting to break into the scene.
right?
From 67, 68, 69, I'm trying to break in doing demos here. We work at Associated Studios and stuff doing these demos. My name is getting around as a new guy on the scene. At the same time, I'm still playing with my band
Right.
in Bergen County. I've also left Gary and the Travelers, and I'm playing with my own top 40 band.
Right.
So actually, more than one producer saw me playing live, and you have to remember at any time you want somebody on the scene in the rhythm section that's really hip to what's happening now.
Right.
So that got me on. I got to work with Bob Crew that way. Bert DiCato was an R&B arranger. He did Everybody Plays the Fool, I
Great
believe,
song.
and which is another hit I played on. And
And With This Ring, I remember we'd be out to dinner and we'd hear this song, With This Ring. Was that one of your tunes too? With this
I
ring.
think so,
Yeah. Every time I turn around, it's a.
after a while, you think you're playing on everything, but yeah. My friend
right.
Tommy McDonald. My friend Tommy McDonald. I hope he's listening. He comes over my house frequently. We're best of friends down here. And Lisa always puts on the cable TV R&B track.
Right.
It's running all the '70s R&B, and every time we might be eating dinner or BSing, and he says, "Yeah, Tropea's on that."
Tropea's it. Wherever poop stinks.
On everything.
That's it. Wherever poop stinks, Tropea's there. He's there.
Right.
All right. So the next big shot in the arm you said was a man that had a birthday, I think, yesterday. Amir Diodato.
Oh, it was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah, I saw it pop up. So I said,
Shit,
"Happy birthday,
I
sir."
got to call him. Yeah, that's a funny story how I did that gig too. It's one of those, if you're there at the right time.
Right.
I had no idea who he was, and this is 1970. I'm living in South Hackensack above on a two-family house. I had one baby, the other one, Pat at the time, my wife
Right.
at the time, was pregnant for the second baby, John. And it's a Friday. I took a Friday night gig at 4:00 demo on Green Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at 2:00, a major thunderstorm hits our area, Bergen County.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're familiar with South Hackensack, it's all low lying.
Yeah, it floods.
It floods out like crazy.
Yeah.
So I would never do this because I wanted to do every record date I could.
Mm-hmm.
This is for Amir Diodato at Green Street recording for Astrid Gilberto, right? Now I knew who she was, of course. I didn't know who he was.
Right.
I said to my wife at the time, I said, I'm going to cancel this record date. And she says, "What are you, crazy? How many record dates did you do last week?"
Yeah.
I said, well, the week before I did 2 demos.
Okay.
Yeah. So I, pull my tail, grab my, my guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and I get in the car and I go down there. Sure enough, we did the date, and everything was great. He was great, nice arranger, great arranger. So 3 weeks go by. I get a call from Creed Taylor's office. We'd like to book you for 2 weeks at Van Gelder's studio.
Nice.
Such and such a date.
Right.
It may have been 1 week. I might be
Van
exaggerating.
Gelder's a famous studio in Englewood, New Jersey.
Absolutely one of the most famous producers of great records
Right.
in that, as a studio owner. So I said, yeah, let me check my book. Yeah, I'm good. So I was there from 9 to 7 every day, and it turned out to be the Diodato 2001 record.
2001. That was everywhere. That was everywhere.
Well, it wasn't only that, right? It was the whole album.
Right.
And Billy Cobham was on drums, uh, Ron Carter on bass. Electric bass was the one from Return to Forever. I'm so bad with names. Lately.
Yeah, me too. Who was back with Return to Forever?
He's
Stanley.
Stanley Clark. Stanley Clark. And Diodato, Ray Barretto on congas. And I'm saying to myself, I'm pinching myself. Why the F am I here? What? How did I get here?
That's right. That's okay.
In those days, John McLaughlin was killing it.
Right.
With Miles.
Mahavishnu. Oh, Miles, right. With the Bitches
Miles
Brew.
And Mahavishnu. Yeah, Bitches Brew. So we did the record. It was a wonderful week. I have to say, I not only learned everything, I learned a lot, but I also there was a guitar solo on every song.
Wow. Well, guitar was just breaking into that, coming from the rock world and going into the jazz world, and instead of it people sitting on a stool playing in what we could consider to be a standard jazz trio, it became the lead instrument in so-called fusion or crossover stuff,
and also in the aspect of rhythm.
Right.
Too.
Oh yeah. Right. Stuff got funkier.
Yeah, the rhythm stuff was coming out front too. So I now you have to remember, I never heard that part of the story. It's like, hadn't I not taken that record date
originally,
who knows where I'm sure I would have got busy, because I believe that if you aspire to be what a studio musician, or if you aspire to be anything,
right,
and you have halfway the goods, or
right,
most of the goods, because you're going to get better as you do it.
Of course.
Because
right.
you're playing.
You learn on the job.
I learned so much more by sitting next to Spinozza, and he says the same thing. But I can't believe I don't know what he learned from me, but I learned.
Well, something. I say that to the students, and I say that when I go live to do my little guitar, educational stuff. I quote George Benson. If you don't want me to steal it, don't play it in front of me.
Right.
And if he could say it, of all people, then I guess Spinozza learned from you. I learned from you. We
learned. Nobody owns anything.
No. You stand on the shoulders of everybody.
And a lot of being in the studio is learning how to be humble. In other words, there are guys that don't last in the studio that are decent players, and they're sitting next to another guitar player, and they hear this guy playing a certain type of fill, or just going for the fills for that matter. Once you hear that, you don't go for fills.
Right.
You support what he's playing, and you can throw in a fill here and there, but you don't
step on each other.
Step on each other, because this, that might be the last time you're sitting in front of that arranger.
Right.
They don't want to be impressed. They got to get a job done.
Right. Yeah, and as opposed to, you get anxious. You get anxious to want to play, and you want to show everybody your goods. And sometimes showing off your goods is not appropriate to what is necessary at the moment.
But having said that, I'm sure we've all done it a little bit, because it comes out of insecurity.
Right. It comes out of insecurity. It comes out of your ego, whatever.
Yeah, all of the above. It's
right. Yeah. Well. All right. So we move from there to doing the record dates. So now I remember you said you were busy with Laura Nero, right?
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't finish the story.
Oh, go ahead. Finish that story.
2 more minutes. So now you have to remember, I didn't hear any of the overdubs. In those days, we were doing 16 track.
Right.
And it was just the rhythm section. And Diodato, subsequently finished the record doing the horns, because there was a lot of horns on that.
Right.
Especially 2001. So I'm driving my car with CD 1019 on the radio, and I pull into my mother's house, and 2001 comes up. Only this time, it's with the horns, ba, 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 da, right? And then a guitar solo comes in, and I'm listening there, and I say, "Shit, man, that guy sounds like he stole some of my licks. Then
He,
about 30 seconds later, I said to my I said, you dummy. That's the
that's right.
song
He
with all
did
the
steal all
horns.
the licks. You know, he owned them.
And it was a big hit. Within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it was like 3 weeks later, we were at Fred Petty's. No, not Fred Petty. We were at the producer's office and putting together a band to go on tour.
Right.
And
Well, I mean, I recall that when that hit because, like I talked to you in the past, our slight age difference when you hit Fort Lee High School, you had left Fort Lee High School, and I stepped in there as the guitar player, or one of the guitar players, and your name was always prominent when people knew I was the guitar player at the high school. And then, of course, when I went off to Berkeley, everybody would be talking as soon as you mentioned Fort Lee to some of the guys that were your classmates, and I believe your classmates through your tenure at Berkeley was John Abercrombie and Mick Goodrick and Hank Witarowicz, another Fort Lee man we spoke about,
right.
and so of course they'd say you're from Fort Lee. Oh, how's Tropea? So I was always a bit the caboose in the train going down the road here, in the Tropea train. But where am I going with this? Anyway, so Diodato broke. You went on tour with Diodato. Oh, so
Yeah.
when I was at Berkeley, and they told me that's Tropea on the Diodato record. Of course, I went down to the local record shop that had it. Just to buy it, and I saw your name in the back. I kind of had a little bit of a Fort Lee pride going on there. It was, see a guy I hear his name all the time mentioned. I guess the water was okay in Fort Lee. Not too much lead. But anyway, so there, I remember you told me about Laura Nero dates, and a bunch of dates, and one prominent date was 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover for Paul Simon, which I think had you and you as well as McCracken.
Well, there was a third guitar, which was Paul.
Which was Paul. Oh, Paul Simon.
Paul.
Okay, yeah.
And I think we overdubbed on it too. That was that was the whole. We played on that song was on the album, if I'm not mistaken, Having a Good Time.
Okay.
That we played on that whole album, and part of it was done at 799 A&R, and some part of his 50 Ways was done at A&R 48th Street.
Right. So I mean, I'd be sitting here dumbfounded to read all the discography of everything you wound up on, but we had our fun times doing our trio, for I don't know what year was that? I don't even remember what year.
I'll tell you exactly what it was, because that was the year I split up with my first wife.
Right, and that
I
was
remember it well.
yeah, but it was that. I mean, my dad passed away in 2006, and we were doing it then. He was still around, right?
We were doing it since 2002.
2002. I got one. Of all the pictures I have, I couldn't find. I got one of us here. I'm playing my old 47 L5. I think you're playing an L5 West Montgomery, and it's Link Millman in that picture playing bass on his Prescott, that big ass bass he had, the same as I forgot the bass player. He used to play with Bill Evans. But anyway, so that's our shot in one of the places that we used to frequent. But those were fun times, and it was an honor to do it.
You don't realize. I don't think you. Maybe you realize it, but I don't think I've ever really expressed it properly with you. Is that you really helped me through my divorce? Because at the time, when you get divorced, I don't care who it is, you're at a low point psychologically, and you actually really helped me getting back into playing live, because when we started playing, then I started doing the Standard Influence album.
Right.
Shortly after that, and I did 6 albums from 2002 to present, and I started going to Japan. I started my own with my group, and we continued to play.
Right.
So it didn't. Let me put it this way: it eased the pain. Music eased the pain.
Oh, without a doubt, it did for me too during my craziness. I
Right.
mean, without that, without a guitar, that's kind of your discipline. You get up, you practice, you lose yourself. It does. It's
Sure.
uh, it's a drug with no antidote for sure. All right,
With no end in sight.
that's right. With no one in sight. I saw someone posted one day that Pablo Casals. Someone asked. He said he was practicing harder than ever, and he was in his 90s. And someone said, well, "You still practice?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm starting to make some headway."
Yeah,
That's how I feel. It's like, I look at myself now at 68 and go, "Why didn't I play like this when I was 30?" I don't know.
I say it
But
all the time. I said someday I'm gonna play a whole night really well.
I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot. So, uh, you started talking about your group. Um, so from that period of doing the trio, you started then reestablishing your own band again, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't.
well, I had, because by the time we got together, I had already one, two, three, 5 albums out,
Right.
and my band didn't play. There was a band I had with Will Lee, and sometimes two drummers, Rick
Right.
Marotta and Steve Gadd, and
But that was
but
the
then
days. I don't want to interrupt. That was the band that you had at the Brecker Brothers
McKell's,
Club.
yeah, and McKell's.
Yeah, I got that. I think I have an old picture of 7th Avenue South. Here we go. Where is it? That's the 7th Avenue South bill of who was playing this certain week. Gary Burton, and I mean that was a prominent place.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean I know I had gone there a number of times, and I think I told you I saw you there once when you had a Fender guitar and you banged the neck wasn't fitting right or something, and you took it on the stage and you kind of to get the neck back in place.
Well, I am from Fort Lee.
Yeah, that's right. And we're both Mama Luke, so I still think a hammer is a screwdriver.
Actually, to correct it, I never played with the band, the big band, with all the horns at Seventh Avenue South. The only time I played there was with John Faddis, Don Grolick band, my
Right.
band with David Spinozza.
Okay. Yeah, I
We
just
didn't.
found the front door of the 7th Avenue South. But I'm sorry to
The
interrupt.
Tropea band never played at Seventh Avenue South. The solo Tropea band. Uh, they also stole my GP10, my original GP10 out of the dressing room there.
No. So I mean, but every time, I mean, back then, just the supporting cast to the Tropea band, but whether it was Will Lee or Anthony Jackson playing bass, or Steve Gadd or Rick Marotta playing drums, or both, or Richard T, or who's the other keyboard player?
Don Grolick.
Don Grolick. I mean, man, those are the who's who of of the New York scene.
Well, you have to understand. These are the guys. We were playing together 5 days a week.
Right.
On
In the sessions.
So going from one session to another, we'd all be on the scene.
Right.
Richard T, Purdy, and I'm leaving out a lot of names.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you can't.
The
I mean,
first time I played at the Village Gate, when my first record came out, it was on the charts with a bullet, and I called up Alan Rubin at the time, who played on the original record. I said, look, I got to put a band together. I need just 4 horns. So, it's like when you have a charts for 4 horns
Right.
for the album. So 3 days before, he calls me up. He says, there's going to be a slightly bigger band. I said, what do you mean by slightly big? He says, well, 10 horns are showing up.
Holy.
I said, who are the 10 horns? He said, the Brecker Brothers. Tony Price on tuba. I never had a tuba in the band. He was the copyist. What's his name? On alto, the great alto player.
Dave Sanborn?
Sanborn. Ronnie Cuba.
Roddy Cuba.
So it was four or five saxes, three or four trumpets. I don't even remember. I'd
He
have to look
probably
at
had
the
like
pictures.
John Faddis, Randy Brecker, Fred Lipsius.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was exactly that. Not Lipsius, but uh, and then two drummers, Richard T. and Don Grolnick.
Right.
Now for 3 days before, and now I have a broken finger, by the way, with a cast from skiing. I plan to take it off that night to play. So I said, well, how am I going to write the charts for 10 horns? He says, I got all the guys helping.
Oh,
So
so they wrote their
I
own.
mean, I did two or three. Diodato did two.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
uh, uh, what's his name? Lou Delgado did two. Make a long story short, we put it all together. It wasn't a big deal for the horns, for the rhythm section. We all knew the material. So we played. There was a line around the block to the point where they wouldn't let Diodato in.
He started the whole thing.
And he was right at the bottom of the steps, and somehow he got a message to me. And I go to the front gate, and I said, "You got to let him in." And now there's all other friends saying, "Hey, Tropea."
Right.
So the guy says, "I can't let anybody in." I said, "Tell you, if you don't let him in with his wife, I don't go on stage." So they let him in. What an
Well, he
ordeal
came.
that
He
I-
came to see us when we played the trio. I probably
Yeah,
like
that's right.
twice or so. He was a nice
at
man.
Giano's. At Giano's.
Yeah, Jono's, and I think once someplace up in Rockland. But what a nice man! I had a picture of that. I have a bunch of pictures, but when I went to put them up in for this, they were all such tiny little JPEGs that I could barely blow them up. So
Yeah.
but he's a nice man. I enjoyed chatting with him, and I like his music. And
He's one
whenever he
one of
goes
the
over to
most
Brazil,
talented
he has
one of the
always
most
great guitar
talented
players.
musicians I know.
Oh yeah. So now
Absolutely terrific.
let's talk about more. Well, first off, how many albums to date?
Not counting the compilations, 13.
13. That's a great body of work. Great body of work.
Thank you.
I encourage people to buy them. And if you look on the bottom of our broadcast, you will see John's website. Click on it. And John has a lot of things on his website besides the albums that can be gotten that I encourage you to get, but also you were talking about having arrangements available of your tunes that people can buy the full arrangements at some point.
Yeah, well, it's being put together now. I mean, I have the arrangements. I can send it out. If anybody is interested in arrangements, it will be on the website a lot more efficiently. But
Right.
all you have to do is email me through the website, say what you want, and I'll get back to them.
Okay.
Tell them the price.
Because
So,
I mean, even if you're an educator and you happen to be a music director to something and you want to have some more current, hipper stuff, I mean, you can't get any more smoking than those charts right now.
There's a
It
lot of
beats
good
doing
stuff
Neil
on-
Hefty,
Little
shiny
Darling.
stockings.
Don't make fun of Neil Hefty. He's one of
Oh,
my
I'm
favorite.
not. I'm just saying, but that's what my high school, Neil Hefty, we do that and cute. So all right. So now let's jump into current. You wound up playing in the Blues Brothers band, and let's see, what do I have here with. So how did that come about?
Well,
That-
all those guys in the Blues Brothers movie and Tommy McDonald, all the cats.
right.
What's his name? Paul Schaefer. We're all part of the same clique.
Right.
And originally, David, when one of the two guitar players couldn't make it on tour, David Spinozza took over, and he would substitute for Matt Guitar Murphy or
Cropper. Okay.
And occasionally, starting in 99, I believe, which actually is the time I met Tommy McDonald, we went to Vigo, Spain, and I covered Cropper's chair for the first time.
Okay.
And then David had been doing it for 8 or 10 or 9 whatever years, and then he left, And by that point, it was around 2001. I had done a couple more short tours, and then it became my gig with Cropper.
Right.
So from 2001 to present, although we didn't play this year, uh, I was with the group.
And
Along with,
and in that band now, I guess at one point the original was it did it have Aykroyd at any time
we
or
played no. This is the band. We did play with Aykroyd once or twice when I was in the band,
right.
but basically it was the Blues Brothers original Blues Brothers band, and it was with Tommy McDonald and what's his name? I can't remember names. I'm getting so damn old. Eddie Floyd.
Eddie
The
Floyd,
sweet,
right?
sweet, sweet Eddie Floyd.
And
And then
Eddie Floyd was famous for Knock on Wood.
and a bunch of others. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of the younger cats don't get this, and this guy seems to always be in the mix. This guy here.
Oh yeah. No, you can't go wrong with Eddie Floyd. He's my favorite. One of my favorite people. He's just
And
the
here
best.
I have a picture with you and Lightning Lou.
Well, and also the other singers in the band currently is Rob Paparosi.
Right.
Johnny Rosh did it for a while, and Bobby Harden, sweet Bobby Harden,
Mm-hmm.
and Lee Finkelstein on
On
drums,
drums.
and what's his name? Eric Udell passed away. He was
Right.
on
He
it
was
for
the
a
bass
long
player.
time.
I had a picture up with
Yeah.
Eric in the background of you.
Yeah.
You and Croppo were backstage.
Yeah, it took us a long time to get over him. We still miss him to this day.
And
And then there's Lou Marini.
right.
And
That's who I have a
Alan-
picture of now. I have you up there with you
Alan
and Lou,
Wood.
which was a great picture of you guys pointing your fingers at each other.
Right.
That's a great
every
photo.
night, that's in my band. Every night
Right.
when we take our bows, Lou and I face each other, and we try to point our fingers and land right at the point.
Together.
And you won't believe how hard that is.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah. And this one night in Tokyo at the Tokyo Blue Note, we nailed it.
Yeah, there it is. So that's actually your band overseas, and not
Right.
the Blues Brothers.
Not the Blues Brothers, no.
You know,
Although the Blues
I
Brothers
have a
played
shot of, let me see, of your latest lineup, which was like the who's who of the, butt kicking players on the planet here. Here's your band at Motion Blue. I see you. I see Rusty Cloud on keyboards. I see Ronnie Cuber on Barry, right? I see Randy Brecker on trumpet, and I see Lou. I don't know who's
Larry-
playing drums there. Could have been Gad.
Well, Larry Farrell was on trombone,
Okay.
and Gad is playing drums, and Zev Katz.
Zev Katz.
normally
Oh,
I
yeah,
have-
Zev Katz is playing
norm-
bass. Yeah,
Normally
that's
on B3 is my co-producer and dear friend Chris Palmero, and when he couldn't make it a couple of times, it would either be Rusty Cloud or Pendarvis, Leon Pendarvis.
right. And here I'm just gonna pop this up with me solo, so people can see on my green screen. There's they don't see you now, but they see just me, and they see the full picture of you and a kind of well-known drummer,
Gad?
Mr. Steve Gadd. It's a good shot of both you guys.
Yeah, if he keeps this up, he's going to be big.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot about him. It's
Yeah, shows a lot of promise.
but so you're back up there. So what upcoming projects? Anything? Now that we're through the COVID, hopefully the COVID craze.
Well, I'm going to try to get myself back together and probably do a couple of gigs with my band with four horns.
Right.
But what I want to do is do either an organ trio or quartet.
Okay.
I want to do a small album, or at least do a good part of that album as a smaller band.
Right.
Because what I feel I don't always capture on the records is the live spontaneous stuff.
Right.
Although
it
for
seems
the
like
most part, I have to say, most of the solos on my records, I always wind up going back to like when you do a track and you demo the solo, you
Right,
play a solo, but you go, I'm going to do another one, but this is where it's going to be.
right.
I would say, 8 out of 10 times, it winds up being that solo,
Well,
and
yeah,
and it's been that way since the beginning
sometimes you're right. Sometimes, hey, I got a
because you're
picture
not
here
thinking
of.
of it.
I got a picture here of. Well, there's tropes at one of our gigs, playing your. I guess that's your West L5. And that was probably, I think that was at one of the gigs with me, you, and Nikki Parat. I wish I had pictures of that, but people should know Nikki. She played forever
Oh, she's
with
fantastic.
Les Paul down at the Iridium. Um, uh, then I got, what is this? Tropes, Mike, and me. I don't think that's anything. Um, oh yeah, that's at one of my Christmas events at my house, and you're playing. Um,
With the
what
Angelico.
you're playing at D'Angelico that belongs to a friend, Brad Dudley, and Mike Richmond's playing actually electric, and I'm playing this '53 Les Paul.
Wasn't
Yeah, we had
wasn't
some
Mike
fun
play,
times during the holiday season. Um,
wasn't Mike playing the cello?
no, that wasn't that. Thank God. No, I don't have that one. I'm playing his electric, which is, I'm so used to seeing him behind an upright. Um, there's uh, you told me a story back in your Berkeley days that I'd like you to reiterate when you first met our mutual buddy George Benson. Um, I think you were in a dorm and someone brought him by or something.
Yeah, it was on the dorm on Newberry Street. I don't
Right,
think it's the dorm now, of course, but it was back when the school was on Gloucester in Newberry.
right. Yeah, and that's
Okay,
when it
and
was
there's a
not
dorm.
called Berkeley College of Music; it was called Berkeley School of Music, which it
That's
turned
right.
to a college in 1970 when I showed up there.
And we were in a dorm that looked more like a loft with large windows,
Right,
you know. And my room was the first story. Oh, actually, the first floor above the entrance, and it was about 2 in the morning, and there was a guitar player up there, and he was fast as hell and a great player. His name was Tim Hayden
uh huh.
from DC, and he would play the guitar. He would never play like if he played a G scale like this.
Right, going across.
He would play.
Right, so you'd be
It
playing
was
vertically.
all up and down, and
Right,
so he played fast, and it made it even look faster.
right, because yeah, covering a lot of
You know,
territory.
so I mean, I never adopted that. I can do it, but I don't I guess I'm a different kind of player. But so it's 2 o'clock or so in the morning, and I hear a bottle break against the window. Now, not against the window, but
Right,
the, the brick in front of the window.
right.
He's I come to the window. I raise up the window. I said, "Tim, what the fuck are you doing?" He says, and he's drunk. The two of them are drunk. He says, "I finally found somebody who's freaking faster than me."
Yeah,
And next to him was George Benson.
right. And a young George Benson at that, right? He
Yeah.
must have been
Well,
like,
if I was 18, he was 19.
well, because George is what? No, George is like 78 now, I think. Yeah, he's
Oh,
10
okay.
years older than me.
I thought he was. I thought
But
he
that was
was
during the Jack McDuff days, I guess.
right. So that the next day, of course, I saw Tim, and I said, "Tim, where was he playing?" He said he was playing Lenny's on the Turnpike.
Oh, okay.
So I said, so I got my whole band. Now at the time, this is the second semester. I had organ, guitar, drums, and two tenors. One
Right.
of which was Ernie Watts,
Oh,
was one
okay.
of my roommates. And so we go to Lenny's on the Turnpike, and we play, and not play. We watched them play, and of course Joe Dukes was on drums. I mean, the band was unbelievable
Right.
to us. Today, it still would be unbelievable to
Right.
me. You
That's
know,
a great roster of players.
and it was one of those nights that you never forget because George George was playing. I believe he was playing a gold top. I
Yeah,
could
yeah,
be
he did
wrong on
play a
that
gold top.
because the next time after George left, it was what's his name from Philly playing.
Pat Martino.
Pat was playing, and he was playing a gold top. So I'm a little foggy on that.
Right.
But not only did I like we went every night that he was there. Not only did I get like next to George, as to this day you and I are friends
Right.
with him, although I don't see him. But uh, Macduff took the front of his organ off to show us how to rewire our organ
Oh,
because we had a B2, not a
okay.
B3, and the left hand and he showed us how to take the power from the pedals and attach it to the left B and B flat preset,
Oh,
so you
okay.
can play left hand bass.
Right. Wow.
You know, so I mean, it was just, and then Joe Duke sat down with us almost every night and would talk to us about, this is what you got to do with this, and don't think about that. It was like a master class times 5 or 4. And then every time that he'd come into town, naturally we'd go see him.
Wow.
Sometimes we'd wind up at the bar, the restaurant, Christmases. You remember Christmases?
Right. I remember here. I never was there, but
Yeah, it was a great place
I mean, when I
for
got
college
there,
games.
Lenny's on the Turnpike, I think, was still there because uh, Maynard Ferguson would be playing there, and Buddy Rich, I think, and who was the band led by a trumpet player? And I think they all died in a plane crash. Um,
Not Lynn Viviano.
no, God, the name,
He was my roommate too.
but and then Lenny's turn closed, but there was always the Jazz Workshop and Paul's Mall,
Right.
and on Kenmore Square was KKKD's and Lucifer's and that
Right.
kind of
But
stuff.
there was another one. Lucifer's wasn't built then, but there was another like Lenny's on the Turnpike, and I don't remember the name of it. I think it was in South Boston. I don't remember the name
Well,
though.
I used to go to South Boston to hear an old guitar player that Bill Levitt used to always like to talk about, named Don Alessi. Um,
Oh yeah, I know Don.
he's one. He's. I hope he's still with us, but he was one of my Facebook friends. We used to go there, and he'd play his old artist award, and he'd do he was a plectrum player, but he would do all these like quick mandolin things on the guitar, and that band I just remembered was Chase. Bill
Chase,
Chase.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Bill
Chase
Chase.
was like the Tower of Power.
Yeah, they
of,
were early on.
that
I have a
day.
picture I had popped up here of me, you, and GB, and I think it was at the embassy when we all met. And I think even Russell Malone was with us on that afternoon.
That's when he was playing at the what
the
used
place
to
in
be the John
Englewood.
Harms
Right,
John Harms Theater.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I spoke to him not too long ago, but since he's moved to Phoenix, who sees him? But maybe he's back out on tour. But I got a picture here of where is it? One thing I got to say, I said send me some stuff. You sent me some stuff. Here's the let's see, was this picture of the Tropes band? Oh yeah, here's everybody. I guess it's the same group, but everybody's posing here, as opposed to. Let me move it out
Oh,
of your
is
thing.
Leon Pendarvis in that?
Uh, is Leon here? There is one with Leon. I thought I saw Leon Pendarvis.
That's the Blues Brothers.
No, this is without Leon Pendarvis. It has. I think it's your band.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Your band. But I do have one with Leon. So talk to me about what the Blues Brothers is now. The Blues Brothers band.
The Blues Brothers band is. There's only Lou Marini and Cropper of the original,
Right.
and now we've been playing since 2000. This format,
Right.
give or take a few gigs. When we play, I would say 99 out of 100 times, it's like Cropper explains, it's like a railroad train coming down. Don't get in its way. It's like we play all those songs. Hold on, I'm coming. 6 feet 3 4. All the R&B tunes. They've morphed into such powerful arrangements.
Right.
And it's not even that it's got to be us playing it, because people just love those songs anyway.
Well, I mean, I in my high school rock and roll band, but before we made the left turn into doing more blues, like the Blues Project and Paul Butterfield, I mean, most of the high school dances were Midnight Hour and Knock on Wood and
Sure.
God, I'm trying to think. And I'm sure there were a few songs
See,
by the
you're
Young
younger
Rascals.
than me. You're younger than me, and the songs that were at the sock hops and whatever
Right.
in your era were much hipper. See, I was coming off the '60s. Don't forget,
So,
I
well,
graduated in '64.
right.
So, I was listening to R&B, but it wasn't making it to Faultley High School.
Oh, what? Yeah, see,
You know what I mean?
and then Cream came out, so then it was like the sunshine of your love, or and
Yeah,
all that stuff. But
great
but
records.
but
Great
even to
records.
this day, you know, I still love playing Knock on Wood. I still love playing, you know, Midnight Hour, Mustang Sally,
Soul Man.
Soul Man. It just has that. It just has that vibe. I just put up a picture of you and Cropper, side by side, in one of the Blues Brothers things. That's a great shot, actually.
Yeah.
That's a really great shot. Um, I always wondered what your role was when, I mean, Cropper was all part of that whole thing. I mean, with Otis Redding and Dock of the Bay, which is a tune I sing all the time on my gig, and it's a fun
Yeah.
tune to play on because it's, all the moving dominant seventh chords. Is always fun. So, but I wondered what your role was because him
Well,
being
you
I
you
mean,
have to
what was
understand.
what's that?
Yep. You have to understand my role when I was playing with the Blues Brothers is there was always two guitar players, and Matt Guitar Murphy
But did Matt
is
Guitar Murphy? Who was more center stage in the band, or were they both equal? I don't really remember.
both equal, and Matt. When I took over Matt's role, and I mean Cropper did most of what he did on the records. I did
Okay,
most of the and he soloed, but his solos were like um, R&B solos,
right.
where I got like four chorus solos, you
Okay,
know, and I'm not saying that Cropper's not a great soloist because he's great, but he always did what he did,
right.
and McIntyre Murphy and I were more alike.
Okay,
We're
so
more
I'm
jazz
not
players,
too
more.
hip to Matt Guitar Murphy, and I never really pinpointed it. I mean, you're far more single line.
And so is he.
Right. Okay. And Cropper's more of those little double stops and those little
Right,
like
right.
chordal things. Which, I mean, knock on wood, and you hear all that stuff in the background. I mean, you can't get any more tasty to fit in that realm.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he came up with. I called them $10 licks. They were
yeah, they're
it,
just perfect.
just perfect, and we it got so tight the band that he and I would orchestrate some of his licks with two guitars.
Right.
You know how you develop into
Yeah, you
a
build off
thing,
it. Right.
and it was just great. And but Matt, if you ever go on and check out YouTube Matt Guitar Murphy, he passed away, of course, but he was a player. He was a jazz player.
Right.
There wasn't a day he would go to the airport where as soon as he sat down, he'd be practicing his guitar.
Right.
He used to remind me of you. Never,
I never
I'm the
stopped. Right
opposite.
here.
What
No, you're not.
practicing?
No, you're not. Tommy McDonald just popped up a note a little while back saying it's Eddie Floyd's birthday today. So happy birthday, Eddie
Oh shit! I
Floyd.
gotta call him.
Jeez, now you got to follow up with Diodato and now Eddie Floyd.
Diodato and Eddie Floyd. Hey Tommy, how you doing, buddy?
So he's you could see all these comments later on. If there's anybody out there that has any questions for Tropea, shoot them. Send them out here. We'll be happy to answer them, or for me for that matter. But this is a John Tropea feature, so let John answer the questions. All right, another question: Fender or Gibson?
What's the question?
The question: What guitars do you prefer playing? I know that on one of your records, someone put a Black Beauty, and you said that was not what you played, but
That
but
had nothing to do with me.
that's right. But
That
someone
was
decided to put that picture on your album,
you blamed that on. That was my first album called Tropea,
right?
and it was a what's the saying? It was a comedy of errors.
Okay,
Okay, if you open up the album in the middle, there's a guitar player on the neck. There's a player in a sketch of a player on the neck of a guitar,
right.
right? Number one, that was supposed to be the cover I submitted.
Right.
What did TK Records do? And Howard Smiley, who's the guy who saw me in concert with Diodato and came up to me and says, "I want to produce a record with you. I want you to do a record for TK Records."
Right.
And that was a Hialeah, Florida company.
Okay.
They had Little Beaver. They had a lot of R&B black artists. So they signed me and Ralph McDonald. So I did the album. The first album is very, very special in so many different ways. So I submit the inside as the cover. Because when I was with Diodato, I used to wear a jumpsuit with a hat.
Right.
And it really depicted me. So what does Howard Smiley do? He takes a picture of an aquarium. Now, you know the cover, I'm not right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know the cover.
So he go without getting any permission from me or opinion. That became the cover, and on the back he puts a picture of a
Les Paul.
Les Paul.
And at the time, you were playing mostly Fenders.
I was playing a hybrid Strat, the one that you talked about with the neck.
Yeah,
moving.
Well, you had to be a chiropractor.
But it was a great guitar. It just needed work.
Right. Yeah. A little hit here and there, but as of recent, when you and I played together, we were mostly playing L5s.
Oh yeah.
I mean, although I guess my guitar of choice, although lately it's been a Paul Reed Smith, has always been a Telecaster or a Fender type guitar. When it comes to solid bodies, or Gibson's, it's a 335. But you're mostly playing also the D'Angelico guitar, right?
Yes,
The D'Angelico's.
I really have no favorite guitar. I mean, I'm very much like the L5.
Right.
I never was able to afford a D'Angelico, a real one. My father wanted to have one made when they were $350 in 1958, and I said, "Nah, I want a solid body." So we went down to Silver and Horn, and he bought me a Les Paul Special, which today would be worth a lot of money.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, but we talked about this, and your first guitar of note was an orange Gretsch. My first guitar was a Rickenbacker 6-string 360, and I wasn't about to go to Berkeley with that Rickenbacker, so I traded it into Manny's for a 335. And I think you wound up going to Berkeley with that orange 6120.
I went with the orange guitar, and I'm sitting in a John LaPorta ensemble, 7 and 5 band.
Yeah.
Right? And they didn't even have an amplifier in those days. They didn't. They're just about recognizing guitar,
right?
Especially jazz teachers like John LaPorta. And he looks at me, and he says, "A fucking orange guitar." I went right from there, no lie, with Ernie Watts. He had a car, so I went with him and drove to the pawn shop, pawned that guitar, and they had a Gretsch Anniversary, which looks like a poor man's L5.
L5, yeah, plywood, but they're nice guitars. Yeah,
they were fine.
And they usually came in a green.
No, this was a Sunburst.
A burst. I just put up the John Tropea band 2016 poster. And it shows you there with Gad and Lou and Randy Brecker and Ronnie Cuber.
Right.
Well,
there should be
smoking, and Neil Jason, Rusty Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Their names appear, but the pictures of you guys, that's a smoking band.
There was also a trombone player named Larry Farrell.
Right.
He might not be in the picture.
He's not in the picture, but it just has. You, Gad, Randy, Lou, and Cuber. And Cuber's on some of the early George Benson stuff, doing Ready and Able and those tunes. Smoking tenor, Barry player for sure.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah. There was one other question before we kind of wrap it up, and now it's kind of left me, flew out of my head. Having to do with our guitar stuff, but you are endorsing D'Angelico, right? Or Pisani's?
Well, it's kind of a light endorsement. I mean,
okay.
You know how when they give you a guitar, they put your picture on their website.
Right.
It's not. I'm not. They gave me that guitar, but I'm not.
Right, but you're not sitting there like having to cover the names of instruments that you play that are not.
No, I would never do that.
Right.
I would never do that. First of all, they'd have to even come close to it. They'd have to give me a vintage D'Angelico.
Oh yeah, well I had one. I had one, and in
I know you
in the
did.
lean years of the '80s, I foolishly sold it, and I've you know, I mean, I had that nice old 47L5, which was a wonderful instrument too, and you have a two really nice, well, three really nice L5s. The L5 with which actually is a Birdland with a full scale neck, which is a rare instrument to start with,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
one
you
of my
got
favorite.
the Wes, and then
I
you
got the
have your
West
older one, your older
60.
blonde one.
I think it's a 62 or 64.
Right, that's a great guitar too. Oh, here's the question I asked: the guitar players that you rub elbows with during those years, in the sessions, were they? Did they have were they pigeonholed? In other words, if they needed a flat top acoustic player, which one would they call? Or was it just like you bring a zillion guitars and you're going to be doing everything? Or did they say, okay, you McCracken, it leans more towards this, and Cornell Dupree leans more towards this? Was it that thing, or was it just whoever they got dragged in and you sound the way you
Well,
sound?
I think it varied. It depends on the player. Like you used. I don't think I ever saw Cornell play anything but a Strat.
Okay,
In other words, he played that, and he was a special player. He played what he played. Eric Gale, I never saw Eric Gale play a flat top, although I'm sure he could play the shit out of it.
right.
He played a Super 400, and
Always
nobody
with 10
sound.
gauge strings.
No, what's that?
With 10 gauge strings, I think.
Right, right. Nobody sounded like him. He was to this day, one of my favorite players. But McCracken, they called McCracken from anywhere to find the winning lick on any song, to playing flat top, to playing slide. Many times you get him as
Wow.
a slide player, and he also played harmonica.
Oh,
So Sal LaTroya, definitely more flat top.
okay.
Although
Yeah,
he
he
was
could
from that
cover the
other.
others, but
He
you know,
covered them all,
right,
mandolin, everything. But there's sometimes no rhyme or reason. I don't consider myself a country player.
right.
If I was When I was doing a date and I was doing a country date or a country arrangement, the first guy that would be on it would be Charlie Brown or Eric Weisberg or
Uh-huh.
both, and then I would maybe play a utilitarian type of Fender.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
you can't be a slave to more than one master at a time. I mean, it's
No,
like,
no, but there were times where I would be called. A lot of times I would carry electric, acoustic, and 12 string. There
right.
were there were accounts I had for years in the '70s. They called me to play flat top on this country western tune, and I was their country guy. And even to the point where I would say, Joe, I'm okay with what you need me to do here, but Charlie Brown, he's really the cat.
Right.
You Not to shoot myself in the foot, but having
I can
said
see you with a straw hat and a little bit of a little
having said
tweak.
that, I don't do it now. I used to Travis pick. I
Right.
used to play classical. I studied classical,
Right.
so I was
Yeah,
kind
we
of
all
a
did.
chameleon in some ways, anyway.
Right. A friend of mine who's on here now, his name is Rosmel. He's asking John, what do you think of the GB10? Rosmel, I believe used to be in the Bob Marley band, I think. So he's asked a question. Obviously, they see the GB hanging behind you. You said you use that quite a bit. I mean, that's a pretty
I
practical guitar.
I actually love the GB10, and I alternate between with my band because I have
Right.
four horns, and I was using the what I call the Super Five. I
Right.
mean, the Bird Five.
Right.
I was using it, but because the GB10 has more frets and the type of arrangements I do of my albums,
Right.
the GB10 is a good one, and I'm able to get more volume out of it without feeding back.
Well, that's why I
I
think he
go
designed
between
it that way.
that. I go between that and the semi-solid
Right.
D'Angelico. That's what lately, last couple of years.
Right. I mean, George designed it for that reason. When I talked to him, and he said it could go in the overhead, it could keep up with an organ trio, uh,
Yeah.
so it worked. Someone else, Rory asked here, Alice Cooper credits, no songs listed, just arrangement. Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter I knew about. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, in fact, it's so funny. He should mention that a book just was put out, and I did a lot of the what are you talking about, the stuff we played on
Right,
with Dick Wagner, and I played on Alice Cooper Goes to Hell and the one after it. The three of us played on it,
right,
and I did some of the arrangements. And in those days, they didn't specify what we all did.
right.
So this writer of it, he's an English writer. The name I said I meant to bring it up to show it to you. Uh, I went through all the songs of both those albums and tried to glean what we all who played what on it. You know, Bob Ezrin was the producer. A lot of the stuff was the three of us playing the same line. A lot of this, like I came in the last day on a Friday and overdubbed High String.
Uh huh.
So it was, and it's not that I play like Hunter and what's the other guitar player again?
Let's see. Dick Wagner.
Dick Wagner. They were much more rock and roll players than I was.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times we sound a little alike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we crossed over. So if you get this book, and I got to find the name of
Just
it.
shoot me the text of it, and I'll look. I'll get it.
I got to go down and get it. I went through all the songs, and not that we were able to glean every exact thing that we played,
Right.
but I zeroed in on a lot of stuff. It tells you who played, you know, what Wagner played. I mean, most of the times there was at least two guitar players anyway.
Right. Yeah,
I
I
didn't
didn't know
do-
you were on the Alice Cooper one. See, that's a new one for me.
Yeah.
You know, I guess that answers those two questions. Well, tropes. This has been fun. I mean, you and I've chatted about this stuff in the past, but it was fun to hear a little bit more in depth. You know.
Yeah, it's always fun.
You know, I love you.
Love you too,
And,
man. And you got a nice show going on. Keep it up.
Yeah, it's fine. You know, it's new for me. It's a new game. It was inspired by former student Jeff McErlane, and he said that he kind of encouraged me to do it. But it's who knows? Maybe I'll talk to you about dragging some of the other guys on that were from that era. It's I hate to think of it as a forgotten era, but for the most part, it kind of is.
It comes and then it goes.
Yeah,
Time for new guys.
I
And there's
GB
so
said.
many-
Yeah, GB said to me not too long ago. He said, what, or I might have heard it on one of his interviews. He said sometimes what was relevant becomes irrelevant, and what was irrelevant becomes relevant. And
sometimes it comes back around.
yeah, sometimes, but that was that was an unbelievable era of I just remember coming back down after my years in Boston, and New York was a happening place, and it wasn't all cookie cutter. You got to sound like this,
No, not at all.
No, everything was you were encouraged to have your own voice. Now, it seems like wherever you go, it's just either cover bands, of the music of and I'm not saying this is I'm not being condescending about it, but there's cover bands of the music, of the 70s and of the 80s, and people playing it just like the record. They're doing a great job of it all, but that's not what drew me to music. What drew me to music was trying to, have your own voice, and it was more encouraged back then.
There's a lot of good things, great things going on that even a guy like you and I, maybe you do, but like I don't relate to some of the ways. Like you take the band Lettuce,
Right, great band
you know,
with
Adam
Deitch.
they've taken drum beats, turned them around.
Right,
You know what I mean? And it's not that I don't relate to it. I can figure it out.
right,
I just don't want to play it.
Right.
But I love what they do.
right. Same thing
And
with
it's time-
Snarky Puppy and
Knocky Pop is another
Right.
one. There's time to sit back and enjoy the music.
Right.
That's where I am right now.
Well-
Not that I don't want to play, but
right,
I don't want to. There's no more competition in my life.
right,
I do what I do, and that's it. And I love like the new musicians that are out there are so great. Anon Rubinstein,
right,
Alicia Keys's guitarist, but he's also multi-talented. He's got a studio in Fort Lee.
Right.
He mixed most of my last record, Got Your Rhythm, right here with me. But he brought the new ideas into it. Sometimes I had to slap him back, but
Right, but you know, you can only be influenced by your own DNA. I mean, you know, my
right.
DNA, and I don't think your DNA. You know, even though there's a maybe a generation that separates us. Hi, John and Russ. Hello from Angelo Costa. Hello, Angelo Costa.
Oh, that Angelo Costa is leasing Hanan Rubinstein's studio because he owns the building. Angelo Costa is a dear old friend of mine, and actually his father was best friends with my father. We know each other.
Angelo.
I'm 75, as far back as I can remember. Hey, Ange.
So, but but even though this style of music, hip hop, is over 20 years old or more, but that's not part of my DNA. You know,
No,
nor is
really
heavy
not
metal.
mine.
You know, Yngwie Malmsteen and all that group, and I talk about that with my friend Jeff McElwain, who grew up with that. He came to study with me, but at the time, Yngwie Malmsteen and the big hair bands were having. That's not my DNA. My DNA is
not,
more
yeah.
blues and R&B and jazz, and and I kind of, I mean, that's my influences. So to try to be presumptuous and think that I know what hip hop is, or I even know what heavy metal is, it's not. I could never know. I couldn't comprehend it anyway. I could figure it out if someone asked me, like when I was doing weddings and I had to do a Van Halen solo. You did the Van Halen solo, but that's not my influence. Hi, sweetie. Oh, is that sweetie?
Yeah, come on, say hello.
Lise.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Rascal.
She's hiding behind me because she's got no bra on.
Oh, that'll make the
Well, now
viewership go
YouTube
up.
knows that.
Yeah. Tune in next week. Thank you,
Well,
sweetheart.
we may be going down to Asbury, so I'll let you know. Maybe we can meet and
Call
have a
me.
drink at McKell's. I mean, at McKell's.
is
Listen
the
to me, I'm thinking
book.
of McKell's. At McLuhan's. Oh, there it
This
is.
is the
Okay,
book.
Alice Cooper in the 1970s.
And it's written by Chris Sutton.
Okay, I'll find it.
And it's a very good book. It's really nice to read it.
All right, and I
And
still
it's not
have
only,
your.
It's not only Alice Cooper Goes to Hell. It's his whole body of work.
It's all of it, and I still have your Grant Green book that I read.
Oh, that's where it is.
Yes, I have it. It's on my shelf.
Lastly, what you're saying, like Gad has a nice way of saying it. He says, "I love all music, and you like it. I love all achievement.
Right,
I love the guys that shred.
right,
You're never going to see me shred.
right.
You know what I mean?" He says, "There's just some music I just don't want to play, and there's just so much, but I love it all." And that's it. I mean, you just got to have a respect for it all.
I mean, I've realized now, at 68 years old, that even when and you know me as playing standards, right? You and I played tons of standards, and I used to pride myself on knowing a good bunch of standards and playing solo guitar for 4 hours, and I'd kind of challenge myself not to stop the songs and just keep going. But I'm always more drawn to songs that have a blues-based melody or a blues-based, So even though it may not be a straight 12-bar blues, which I'm drawn to anyway, but they're blues-based ones that have the blues notes as melodic tones, and that leads me to Ray Charles. It leads me to, God Bless the Child. It just hits me here better. I don't know why.
Oh yeah. And you're entitled to that.
And I still study Charlie Parker. I still study Wes. I still study. I pick that apart all the time. I don't pick apart, Yngwie Malmsteen. I'm not drawn to it. I'm not saying that there's not an education there, but it just does not hit my heartstrings. At one time, I wanted to cover it all. I mean, I played classical guitar, and and there's still guitar players that no one would ever think affects me. But Jerry Reed is a guy I always love to listen to and take his fingerstyle stuff.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, and I studied classical guitar probably as you to gain the discipline, but I never wanted to be a classical touring guitar player. I just wanted the discipline of fingerstyle. So it was another thing, whether you're playing with your thumb or you're playing with a pick or you're playing with your fingers, you have, you have a few different colors to choose from. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I
Well, you're
agree.
certainly one of my favorite players.
Thank you, and and ditto. um, well, Johnny, I'll let you get back to Lise.
Yeah, is it time to eat? Is it time to eat?
Not yet, but I'm gonna, well, now it looks like it's overcast here, so I don't know what it is in Asbury.
Yeah, it's kind of like that down here too.
Is it? But maybe we Doreen and I frequent a lot of places, and we have our own little watering holes down there and up here and in St. Augustine. So, but I thank you for doing this, brother, and
It's my pleasure, my honor, and you have a great weekend, and I hope to see you soon.
yep.
And whoever has been listening in, have a great day and rest of your life, actually.
Yep, there you go. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Johnny. I'm going to end the stream on YouTube. We'll probably still stay up here, but I'll end the stream on YouTube, and then.
Okay.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining. Keep your ears open. If you like what we all did and what I'm doing, just subscribe, give a thumbs up. Any other questions? I think we've answered everything, and we will see you soon. You still there, Tropes?